Don't mind my messy ass garage, but I also wanted to show you this mirror that I made. I made it for a fraction of the cost because you can go online and buy these things. And wow, I was actually surprised of how much money you could actually spend. I mean, I spent less than $200 on making this mirror myself. It might have been more, but I had pieces of plywood and other material that I had already available. But I mean, even look at me as I'm moving around in here. Let me move my my tripod. But even me, let me zoom it in too. Even me, I'm getting changed all along here in this mirror. And even at one point I'm upside down, and then when I get to a certain point, um, you know, I can change myself. It's kind of hard right here because I have to bend down so low, but oh, look at me, you know. And this is what I think we're looking at, is a convex concave mirroring effect that our angular resolution causes out on the water and even on land. You can probably have the same effect on land, even though people will say, no, you can't. But just think of me as a light source right now. And as I start getting closer to the horizon, I just blend into my own reflection. Now, I probably won't completely disappear, but due to I'm being so close and I'm so zoomed in too, these things happen. So again, don't take my word for it. Build your own damn mirror and see what you come up with. You can actually see 3 lights. And there's only one. And, there's a certain point in the sky that, when the sun is at a certain point, all you can see is this big glaring sun. But then when it hits another level, all of a sudden you can make out the sun, you can make out its detail, and you can see that it's round and all that brightness is gone away from it. So, really hope this helps people understand, because this is the way I've been seeing a lot of stuff and a lot of things. And even looking at that point, well, a whole new perspective of everything. Of everything. The vanishing point, baby. To the vanishing point. Or just out of our perception. Alright, I was kind of hoping that the fog would lift a little bit from the shore. Again, I'm still out there on this bird rack. And again, that's why the shakiness of my camera. But I think I'm going to talk through the
part of this, and then I'm going to chop a little piece out where I move just move my camera, and all you see is the water for a few minutes. Um, but you know, I want you to take into consideration my mirror experiment on how this angular resolution um, can make things, you know, vanish, disappear. Um, you know, I get comments on my channel like, explain to me how the sun goes down and comes up on the other side. Well, geez, go explain it to yourself, okay? You say, people say, oh, you know, it's all been proven, it's all fact and everything. Well, who proved it? Who gave you the fact? Who told you it was fact? So unless you go out and prove it to yourself, you were just going by hearsay. You were going by what people taught you to believe. All right? So you have to go out and prove these things to yourself without using NASA's bullcrap. You know, our eyes are wonderful um, human equipment, okay, because our eyes are wonderful things, but they're only able to see to a certain distance and to a certain angular resolution. Um, you know, so as I zoom in here, there's this pole right next to me that kind of blocks me out a little bit, and you'll see the kind of the color of it on the side here. But you also see I pick up these towers still way in the background. You know, islands that stick up out there. Why do I pick these up? Because they are higher than anything back there. But these buildings right here are the Hudson condos down in Hudson, which is the next county over. It's Pasco County. And these have to be at least 15 miles away from me. I know when I'm standing over on Hernando Beach, they're 10 miles away. So where I'm at, it's got to be at least another 5 miles, maybe a little less, but I shouldn't see even half that much of those buildings. I should be seeing very, very little of those. I should be seeing the tippy tops of them because there should be like 70 something feet behind the curvature of Earth. So either the geometry is wrong to Earth, or you know, Earth is bigger than what they're telling us, or it is flat. Take your pick. I mean, I see these towers that stick up, but there's this what I call a gray area. And that gray area is between the visible water line and approximately halfway up what you see in the background. There's this area there that is totally hidden. It's hidden in that mirror, just like in my uh, mirror that I built, the concave convex mirror. And people say, well, how could that be? Well, like I say, water, when it gets to that certain point, you see the visible water line. After that is it actually becomes a mirror. It becomes a mirror because of the angle that I'm on to it. No matter how rough that water is, it will be it's still water, but it's mirroring. You know, I catch boats all the time going across this area, and people want to just say that that's a mirage. Well, people, I want to see any scientist show me a man on a bicycle go up over a hill and show me by refraction that that man pops back up over the other side. I want to see that experiment done and proven to me that that is what actually happens. This magical force popping something up from behind a curve is impossible. Impossible. So show me that, and then maybe we can get somewhere. But most of what you believe is what you've been taught. You've been taught that it has been proven fact, that there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. That's the way it is. Don't question it. Believe it. because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to believe it without questioning it. Well, I say question it, and then if you get the proper answer and the proper evidence, then you can think about accepting it as being fact. But until I see fact, I am not going to accept it. I see grass along this shoreline, which this shoreline should be hidden completely. Yes, that grass is mirrored, but look at this guy on this jet ski going across the edge over there. You can obviously see he's up on plane, so you can see him. You even see his body being mirrored. You don't much see the jet ski because he's kind of distorted a little bit, but this is a jet ski. He's slinging water out, and his water is also being mirrored. Look at the wake that he's creating is a mirrored wake. But that is actually a man. Now I follow this guy on this jet ski, and I'm pretty familiar with this area. This is back behind Bayport. He goes back behind these islands, and he scoots along, and there's some islands there that block him out. Then there's a little opening, and then there's some more islands, or actually it's just mangroves. And then I guess he goes off in another direction, or he's back there where it's so thick I can't see him. And you can always see trees. You see the light diffracting off the trees from the sun. You see the light diffracting off of the birds that are in the trees sometimes. It's pretty easy when you just look and try to use your mind and your common sense to see how this mirroring is affecting your vision. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. You can see the cars sitting up in the parking lot. You see this boat that just went by. You see birds that fly by that disappear, reappear, disappear, reappear in full flight. I can see underneath this dock. I shouldn't be able to see in between that mirroring reflection, but I do. I see between or underneath the dock. So you, as the observer, have to go out and do your own observations. You have to go out and do your own tests. No, people say you're crazy because you think that Earth is flat. My first thing was to go out and prove that it wasn't flat. I wanted to prove it. But this is what I saw. I saw this mirroring effect, and it stopped me in my tracks, and I had to say, wait a minute here. Let's do some research. Let's do some investigation. Let's try to find out what this gray area is. And that's exactly what I did. So I've done some experiments with this mirroring. I do plan on doing more with this mirror in due time because I think it's important that we understand how the light reflects or refracts or diffracts off of this mirror and causes different effects. Alright, you've seen that boat. I'm going to zoom back in on it. I wanted to get a better focus on it. But you'll see right here how you really don't see it making a wake or splashing any water, but here shortly you'll see it. You'll also see them pass by some other boats that they look like they're sunk in the water. They're not sunk in the water, they're just not up on plane. Once a boat gets up on plane, you'll notice that it always looks ass heavy, like its rear end's down in the water more than the front end. But when they're far enough back off that mirror, you don't see the water, you don't see the wake until he starts getting closer. Then you'll start seeing that wake. Also, look at these people in the water here, and you may want to slow the video down. They look like they're sunk down in, but their boat's not up on plane. You'll see a guy over here, he'll cast his pole, and it looks like he's standing in the water. He's not standing in the water. He's on a little John boat, and you should be seeing him here shortly. Now, all of a sudden, you start seeing this boat's wake. And the closer he gets to me, there's the guy. He's going to cast his pole right there. And you even seen his line. I mean, how can I see his line at 3 miles away? And like I say, these areas here are hidden not by the curvature of Earth. They're hidden by the mirroring effect. Now look at that boat there to the left. See how the guys look like they were almost down in the water? Well, you'll see here in a little bit, because that boat will get up on plane and he'll start following this other boat here. But there's some good examples to show how I'm always saying that waves block out farther boats, or the bottom hulls of boats, when they're far out on the water plane, or when they're out in the mirroring area. It's not only waves that can block them out, but it's also the mirroring effect that can hide objects. Just like my mirror test goes, you can always see how that happens. Also, watch his wake, how it hides that boat. Oh, cut that boat right off. So just that little wake can cut off a boat farther back. Just like a wave would cut off a boat if the water was real rough. My camera will resolve the higher waves, but it won't resolve back further behind the mirroring area. But I think it's more that mirrored area that hides things, because again, water is not perfectly flat. You can see it has ripples and waves in it, and when it's at this certain angular resolution, it creates that mirror effect, and that mirror effect hides things. Just that you can see his wave here is being mirrored, or his wake is being mirrored. Also, look at the light reflection off the front of his boat. I'm always telling people it depends too on the angle of light hitting the water what occurs. Now here's that little boat that was back there. He gets up on plane and he starts hauling ass. Now you see the whole boat up out of the water. And of course too, you can see how the wake is blocking that boat out, blocking out the lower hull of the boat. So by using a little common sense and a lot of good observations, you can see these smaller details. And a lot of times in a lot of my videos, like I tell people, if you slow them down and take your time to really observe them, you'll see things in there that'll make you question, what's going on here? What's happening? Why is this occurring? Well, it's this mirroring effect that hides things, that stretches things, that enlarges things, that magnifies things. It can do all kinds of things in a mirror. These, Carnival Funhouse mirrors, they're crazy. They can do all kinds of things to you. They can compress things. Like I say, they can enlarge things, stretch things, squash things, do all kinds of strange things. So, if you really take the time out to observe a lot of my observations, you'll start noticing these things. Looking at some of the crab traps too, how they bob and weave. I think on one of the videos I meant to slow it down, where you see the power plant up in Crystal River. You'll see a fish jump right up out of the mirror and splash back down into the mirror. It's like, is that a mirage? No, that's a fish just jumping out of the water that is just being mirrored. So look at angular resolution. Research it. Research diffraction, refraction, shadowing, Raleigh's criterion. It plays a big role in the way our eyes work and how we actually see things at long distances. Yes, you can have a camera that can zoom out. I mean, I zoom out the stuff that my eyes can no longer see. I mean, I'm always looking over the top of my camera to see if I can see it visually with my eyes. And normally I'll speak up and say, wow, I can see it in my camera, but I cannot see that boat with my naked eye. Now, look how the water, as it's being waked up, how it rises up higher and it blocks out the background too. Same thing that, we see when we're looking out across the horizon, the opposite direction, when I'm standing on shore looking out into the Gulf of Mexico. There's a far off mirror that's way out there. And a lot of times you don't even see it until that sun comes down to the edge, and then you see it start reflecting up. When those two reflections meet, that's where your horizon actually is. And it's hard to explain that, but Raleigh's criterion really explains it well if you research it and understand it. Here again, there was a guy standing in the water. Next time I'm out here, I learned a few things instead of trying to track some of these boats, which it's okay to track them, but it's sometimes better to just let your camera set and stay in one spot and let things come by it, because that's when you see these birds and whatnot fly by. They'll be in full flight and they'll disappear and reappear, disappear and reappear. Now, I've got some boats here that are just putting along. There's an area where there's a no wake zone out in front of this dock where you cannot haul ass. And you'll see some of these boats, go by a little too fast for the area that they're in. But here this guy is. He gets up on plane. You see his boat rise up in the front. And he's got to get his nose down. He's still trying to get it up on plane. He's ass heavy. It's a pretty good sized boat. But look at all the mirroring underneath it. And then once he gets his enough speed up, that nose comes back down. You start seeing the wake behind the boat. Now he's up on plane. Now he's hauling ass. Now watch his bird fly by, in and out of vision. So it's these small little details that I could slow these videos down and really pick them out for you. But I want you to pick them out for you so you see what I see. I shouldn't have to pick all of these small details out for my viewers. If they're used to my videos, they should be used to trying to pick out some of these small details that I'm always talking about. Now, I got another part coming up here shortly. This is going to be one of the longer parts. It's going to be kind of the last part, except for I may put my boat ride back to shore on as a separate video, or I might just attach it to the back end of this and let you watch my ride back. But now you obviously can start seeing this boat, and he's coming to that visible water line. Takes a while to get to that visible water line, but all that mirroring where these boats are at is where I say that magic happens. That illusion happens. They're not behind the curve, they're just behind the mirror. They're being squashed, compressed, hidden, all of that. And my mirror test, it's pretty obvious. Now you can build one of these mirrors yourself. The ones that you can buy on the internet are pretty small mirrors. I built 8 foot by, I think it's like 3 feet wide by 8 foot. But I will tell you, be careful cutting it. Now look at this. This is a good view of how these wakes are blocking out the farther back boats, the boats that are farther back behind them. At one point, I mean, it almost blocks out that entire boat. So you be the judge. I'm not trying to get you to believe me. I'm trying to get you to go out and do your own test. I don't expect anybody to believe a word I say. And look at this wake line right here in front of me. Now the tide's coming in, so you know that water's rolling in just like waves. It's rolling in, and that's why I say the water's concave. Convexed in some areas. You know, you got bumps and hills and valleys in it. It's not all perfectly flat, and that's what you got to take into consideration. Now I'm gonna maybe let this the original audio play on this next part, but I'm gonna watch it first and then see if it's reasonable to just let it play on its own, because I'm about tired of talking and picking these things out for you. All right, thanks.
A little better focus. There's still a haze on the land though. Like I said, my boat's bumping this edge here. I can readjust it again. Look at that. Sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. You can see how waves can cut off boats. Just a little wake can cut off part of the boat. So what can a wave do? You know, especially when they're out in big swells. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? So again, I'm going to take a beating here. The boat's going right by me. Actually, my camera's getting closer to the water the more the tide comes in. So now I'm not, it already came in a couple of feet. But like I said, I'm going to have to get out of here before my motor won't be able to make it out from underneath this thing. Then I'll really be screwed. So, let me hit this other boat that I see coming. He's way out there. And then what I'm going to do is zoom in, zoom back. I'm going to zoom out. If I can get to the sun here. I don't know if I can hit the sun. Yeah, I might have to tilt my camera back a little bit. catch the sun. But I'm gonna pack it up and go home, guys. I think I did enough.
Okay, as I leave this bird rack, instead of heading right back to shore, I take a little ride out toward the Gulf. I just was wanting to see how these clouds are. And, you know, people say that, oh, the horizon's only 3 miles away, or the sun's only 3 miles away when they're viewing it. It's more than 3 miles away. These clouds are probably, you know, 20 miles away. They just, you know, it's hard to judge these distances. But I guarantee you at 30 miles an hour, it would probably take me an hour to get out there and get right underneath those clouds. Now, too, my GoPro camera has 4x zoom on it, and that's all it has. And this is at normal speed, so I didn't speed this part up. And you can see how fairly calm the water is out there. I'm not taking a real bad beating. My boat isn't meant for out in heavy water. It's a flats boat. Yeah, go figure, huh? Flats boat. But you know, my boat is pretty buoyant. When I stop in the water, I only sink down a little bit. I don't sink as low as some of these smaller John boats do, because there's a lot of styrofoam up underneath my deck, which makes my boat a little more buoyant. But here in a little bit, and you'll see, I'm going to use that 4x zoom, and I'm going to zoom out. Because it's hard to even see where the horizon line actually is. There's that gray area that you see out in front of me. That's hard to distinguish where the water ends and the sky begins. You could say, oh, it's that dark area, that's clouds. No, not necessarily. And you'll see when I zoom in here what I'm talking about. Right here, now you see, is that clouds out there, or is that mirroring water? It's hard to determine. So where is the horizon line in that gray area? Where is it exactly? Because these clouds that are up there in front of me are also being mirrored off the water. So again, you know, you might say you could split that in the center and get the horizon line, but you can't always split it directly in the center. And I explained that in one of my other videos of why you can't do that. But you notice too, when I do the zoom in, how much more bounce I get, because I'm zoomed in. I zoom back, and I'm nowhere near those clouds. It doesn't even look like I'm gaining on those clouds. And that's why I say, you know, people think that they're a lot closer than what they appear, but they're a lot farther away than what they think. And that's the whole point of me taking this little drive out farther. Now here I'm going to turn around and excuse me, we'll catch the sun. Now look how that sun's light is reflecting off the water. You can't see boo out there. You couldn't see nothing out there if you really tried. You know, especially with a GoPro camera. Now this next little piece here, these are on 10-minute loops on my video. I sped this part up 2 times. I zoomed in to show you that the land is there. It's just small because it's farther away. It's not that it's not there. It's just way farther away. And as I gain and get closer to it, it appears to rise up, but it's not rising up due to it being over the curvature of Earth. It's only rising up because I'm getting closer, and as I get closer to any object, it gets bigger. You know, look at a thimble. A thimble. put it on a table, stand 20 yards away, look at it. You can hardly see it. And then as you walk closer, get up right up to it with your eyeball. It becomes big. So you got small because it's way farther away. And then you got big when you get real close to it. Not hard to figure that out. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist. All right, now I'm coming back up to this this bird rack. And I did auto enhance this too, by the way, just so you could actually read what's on the bird rack, because it's something that's hard to do. With this GoPro cameras, read a sign, especially when you don't have a lot of light on it. The sun's still behind the bird rack. But I zoom into it. As you see, you can still see the land. You can see, reflections of the houses way over in Hernando Beach to the right of the screen. That's because they're there. They're always there. It's just that they get so small, you can't see it. Angular resolution. Anything that's far away will actually start getting smaller and smaller and smaller, just like looking down, a hallway and seeing things, closing in to a point. Well, out on the water, you just have the ceiling and the floor. You don't have the walls. So you get the same effect, but only with two sides, top and bottom, up and down. And because I am the bug on the floor, I see much more of the sky than I do of the floor. So the floor is where all that angle is. Okay, you can see that was Bayport entrance, Danger Rocks. I take the zoom back out of it. Not all the way. I think I've still zoomed in a little bit. And of course I went back to 2 times speed, so it wouldn't take all day. Now you start noticing these markers are farther apart here when you get farther out in this channel. But as you get closer to the land, they start narrowing. And at times, when you're on the boat and you're heading in, it doesn't look like sometimes you and a big boat are going to fit through it, but there's plenty of room there. It just appears like there isn't, because when you're out on the water, it's hard to determine your distances. Your depth perception gets off a little bit. So that's why, I do a lot of fishing on the water, so I'm very used to it. But somebody that's ridden with me or gotten in my boat, and especially when I'm over in the Hernando Beach channel, you're riding right beside land, and I've had some people where they get white knuckles holding on to the side rail, thinking that I'm going to hit these rocks or hit a boat, because that's a pretty narrow channel too. And of course you can see when these boats go by, I get these wakes, boom, 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 beat the hell out of me. Again, my boat's not built for taking big waves. It's for this kind of water right here. Nice, smooth, flat water. I can do about 30, 35 mile an hour. The fastest I've ever had my boat going was about 40. That's when I have it jacked up and trimmed. But when I have it jacked up and trimmed, the nose starts bouncing a little bit. But I can get it up to about 40 miles an hour. There was a dolphin right there. I tried to avoid him. I definitely don't want to hit no dolphin or a manatee. Plus, too, my boat has a tunnel hull, so my motor isn't actually down under the boat. It's in the tunnel. So it's a lot safer for wildlife, say manatees when I'm driving. I mean, yes, I could bump them with the bottom of my boat, but I surely won't do no big scars on them, with my prop. So you know, it's a pretty nice boat to have when you're around manatees. I can always jack my motor up even higher when I do see a manatee. All right, right here, um, I'm gonna slow it down here. I mean, as you see it appears as if the land rises, but it's not. It's just I'm just getting closer to it. That's all. And like I say, the closer I get to something, the bigger it gets. Right here, I'm going to slow it down so you can get an idea of the dock and the park over there to the left. And that's the dock that I was looking at. And you've seen how I, took the boat out. So you see where these boats were coming from that that I was tracking from out by the bird rack. All right. So, for these people that do the condemnation before investigation, why don't they go out and do some experiments on their own and do some tests on their own before they condemn us? I always feel like um, these people are on a witch hunt because you're not accepting their belief system that we were all taught. We're not dumb. We all were taught the same stuff. We all got educated. I mean, maybe some people didn't, but I know I got educated, and um, I'm not a stupid person. And I think common sense goes a long way in my books too. That if you're there's the flagpole that I could see from out there, and there's the park. Um, but people want to insult your intelligence, and what they want to do that for is to piss you off. So you say nasty remarks back, and then it doesn't make you look too smart by just attacking them back. So I'm trying to change my ways on when somebody makes nasty comments to me. Is either just ignore them, block them, or give them a hearted comment and say something nice to them. Tell them to go out and prove it to themselves. Go out and do your own tests. Look at down this canal. It's crazy. You have to go out and try to debunk flat Earth. If you go out and try to debunk flat Earth, I think you'll find that it's a lot harder to do than what you think. Especially if you don't use any of NASA's CGI videos, CGI images. I mean, come on, guys. Look at some of these pictures of Earth from space. Come on, man. You got to have more common sense than that. Dude, I don't own Photoshop or nothing, man, but I can tell they've been photoshopped. I can tell it's CGI. And damn, if you don't have enough common sense to understand that and see that, especially their stupid simulations, I mean, those are so obviously fake. It's unbelievable. A spaceship gets so high in the sky, and then they flip over to this simulation bullcrap that my grandmother wouldn't even have believed. All right. Again, like, subscribe, share. Use any part of the video that you want. I don't hold any copyrights on my stuff. If you use it and don't even let me know, I don't care. I just don't care no more. I'm not worried about somebody using my videos and claiming them even as theirs. Who gives a shit? As long as people get to see them and they don't manipulate them to their bullshit ball earth curve crap, I don't mind people using my videos. So feel free to use it. Like, subscribe, share, and have a good day, man. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.